Hi, good evening. My name's Joanne Bond, and welcome to my show, It's All About You. I'm a professional coach, and I'm here tonight with Kelly.
Hello.
Welcome, Kelly, to talk about work-life, personal, professional balance. So, which is a relentless topic these days. Everybody is concerned about it. And a lot of people don't believe it's possible, and that's like a whole nother show. So maybe the best way to approach this is to talk about, kind of maybe give a snapshot of what your life looks like now,
Okay.
and what's important to you, and then we can kind of take it to how you might like it to be and see what the gap looks like.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a job that I love right now, and I'm in global IT and working on a great project. And but the downside is that it is very consuming, and so especially right now, my time is primarily all work. And but at the same time, it's enjoyable because I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. But I do miss the fact that I'm not able to play as much and/or give back and volunteer. I'm a foster parent for the county, and in the past had much more of a flexible schedule and was able to take care of kids and work part-time and make it all work.
Yeah.
And so now I'm back into this full-time job, which I love, but in the back of my mind, I'm missing the other, and I feel like, that I'm, number one is I want to give back, I need to give back, and I'm missing what should be an important part of my life at this point.
So what is, if you looked at it in a pie, maybe, like a nice big apple pie with 6 pieces, and you said, the way that the pie looks right now, would you say that you're getting in some of your volunteer time? Some?
Maybe like 1 of the 6 pieces.
Oh, so that's not too bad, right? 10, 10, 15%?
Exactly. It varies. I mean, that's, it's more like a span of a couple days all at once versus something consistent if we were looking at the pie more on a month basis.
Is that the nature of the way foster care works, the way that you do it? It comes in lumps, or?
Sometimes, yes. And, and unfortunately the lumps are much smaller at this point.
Yeah.
So, and, and I'm driving that because I know that my commitment is, is with my work right now.
Right.
But,
so you have the ability to say yes and no to, you get to choose how much time you use or expand or don't use for your charity.
Right, exactly.
So what would you like to do? I mean, how much do you think you'd like to contribute? Or give back?
Well,
actually, you know what? That's not the question.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's a quantity question.
Okay.
Yeah. Scratch that.
Okay.
So if it were to, because it isn't really, if you really love to do something, I don't think it's always just about the hours that you do it, right? It's also the quality issue. So tell me the ways, like when you feel like you're contributing, what sort of things do you get to do that make it really valuable for you? Well,
you feel it's selfish almost. I mean, it gives you a good feeling that you're making a difference in someone else's life.
Right.
Instead of my full-time work where, I feel selfish because I'm enjoying it and I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to then make this time that, for others, and that feels guilty.
So then if you were actually doing it like you wanted to do it, would it mean that you would give more time to having foster kids? Is that really what you want of that part, or are there other things that you do? Is there, certain ways that you want to give back?
I mean, right now that's my primary interest. I mean, I have done, other types of volunteering and would love to even expand on some of those. It's all the you know, if I really had my perfect life, I would not have to worry about money, and make sure that I do this on a full-time basis.
Oh wow.
But
you love it that much.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my job too.
Yeah.
But but that doesn't that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then it is kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Kind of how do you create the space to do more of it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And
or I mean, there's the alternative, or just better accept, which is what I've been trying to do, is just accept that, right now, this phase of my life is primarily, 5 out of 6 pieces of the pie,
right.
or more like 4 out of 6 pieces of pie is all work, and be better with accepting that, and knowing that, in the future that that will change. I mean, that's another way to look at it.
Yeah, and people do that. It's a great resiliency technique, actually. Just what you outlined there, is people have a tendency to try to look at balance in a really short term. But parents, for example, will look at when kids are between 0 and 5, and they're not sleeping much, especially the first 2 years, right?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, you know that, right? Because you take babies, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes. So the whole idea of this is not the time to search for balance. So if you look at the bigger picture, it might be after 5 years where you get more balance, or it might be after 18 years when they leave home, but there's that idea that balance doesn't have to be this confining or this constraining. It could be more fluid in looking back on a life of when you had these ebbs and flows. Which is just what you said.
And that's extremely interesting. So
if you took a 10,000-foot view in your life right now,
right,
and you looked at it and you said, 4 out of 6 pieces of my life right now are work, and I love it, then, geez, you're not losing any contest, right?
Right.
But what would you want to tweak? Is there anything you'd want to tweak? Or is it that you want to work on just saying, this is how it's going to be?
Well, I think there's 2 things to tweak. The first one would be a little bit acceptance that, and I love that ebbs and flow, because you're right, as I look back, work, then, more the part-time, now back work. And
yeah.
So that's a great way to look at it. And yet at the same time, I still think I could balance it just a little better right now.
Yeah? What have you thought about doing?
I'm just a little more over the top than I want to be. Even if I was comfortable with it, I think that I still need to pull back a little bit more and try to find that time to take either for myself, or which for myself means some sort of volunteering or playing, but the big picture of more time for myself. So
so
I think I might be better at my job too if sometimes if I could separate a little bit and realign in an effort to try to balance the entire pie, as you say, or the time. Yeah.
Renewal.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of research around that. Schwartz and Lair wrote about it in A Powerful Engagement in the Pyramid, and the bottom piece being the core foundation and how you build capacity is that you take care of your physical self, then your social, emotional, mental, cognitive, spiritual. Right. Kind of work your way up, but yeah, they talk about, and Covey talked about this years ago too, that the whole thing about capacity building is R&R. It's resilience. It's how do you keep the energy management flowing so you have that to tap into. So yeah, I mean, you take really good care of yourself health-wise. So, because you work out,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you biochemically are already supporting yourself, right? You eat well, you take care of yourself, take care of your sleep, your stress.
Yeah. Well, the stress is, goes up and down. But again, I'm the type that sometimes thrive on stress. So so that's not necessarily a bad word.
It's all good stress to you.
Yeah.
Eustress, EUSTRESS, that's the good stuff.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I have lots of that.
So the oscillations thing is a way to look at the 10,000-foot view of at this time in my life, I have a predominance of this going on versus this going on, And so when you're in the trough, you're supposed to use that time to re-energize and to manage that energy. So, when you're at the peak, you're kind of riding the wave because you love your job. You love what you do. You don't really have any general, you don't have any big complaints. You have general like, I just really want to fine tune it. So as you're probably like here somewhere, right? You're cusping because your energy is high. Mm-hmm. So then if you're tweaking it and you say, if I could just get a little bit more for me, when you look around, where is it? Where is that little bit of extra play or that time? I mean, you've done the looking, right? What do you see?
Well, I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, you haven't.
I mean, and are you speaking from a where is it coming from, or more really concretely from the time period, or
yeah,
I'm
well,
not
it could be
sure.
any of that. Well, so let's think about it this way. If you so you work in an organization that a lot of organizations let their people do contribution activities as part of their job, right?
Right.
And they give them work time to do that.
Yes.
So if you looked around, for example, one place to be able to fit in the accommodation to doing foster work, could the organization is there a solution in there that helps combine the two? That's
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I've done in the past, and they're extremely flexible, and I'm very lucky. So the question, I think that comes out of that is, okay, well, then get there, but.
But you would have done that if you could already, if you figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's it's a matter of I'm not quite sure that I could be in this great place in my project right now on more of a flex schedule, more of a 50-50. And so we're back to the same struggle. And if anything, you're right, and that I have that choice, and I haven't looked at it right, as openly until right now. And
well, actually, so let's do that. If you don't mind, let's stay on that, because instead of trying to answer the question of where it comes from, and instead of trying to say how do I accept it, let's just do a little bit of review.
Okay.
So let's look at, so you love your work. You really feel like in order to deliver it a certain way right now, that you want to be a certain way, right? You want to show up in your leadership, in your organization in a certain way right now, and it works for you.
Right.
Because you're feeling very productive.
Exactly. I mean, the changes that are happening couldn't happen if I wasn't as committed from a time commitment standpoint right now. If I was 50%, then in my mind, I look at, okay, well then, I'm only out, producing 50%, and, then at that point, am I less successful? Not necessarily, but, when you have in your mind where you want to be and you can get there, and then all of a sudden you're just charging for it.
Right, yeah. So 50%, we're throwing that one out because that won't work.
Right.
So let's bump it. Go up to 75%, which is 20 or 25% less or whatever.
Yeah.
Need my calculator. And if you just stick with the hours, and if you actually took something realistic, 25%, what is that, like an hour a day, 2 hours a day? What is that? That would be.
Well, I think it would be more like 3 hours a day.
3 hours a day. So 3 hours a day.
That seems huge.
Yeah, it does. Because of how you currently work.
Yeah.
So if we get that 10,000-foot view and we look at the oscillations, that's probably not a possibility.
Right. And, you also have there's 2 points to doing the 50%. Number one is that I want to do my best in both places, and especially with the kids, they don't deserve anything less than 100% of my attention at all times. And so it, then there becomes that struggle. And so, not only am I not moving as forward as fast, say, in my project or my job as I would like to, now when I split my concentration, am I then, not as focused in each individual event because I'm still trying to do this balance between the two.
Right.
Does
So
that make
really, yeah. So this is good because then that says that no matter how we talk about time, time really isn't the issue. Because there's an expectation of how you're going to deliver your best quality. And your best quality is going to, at 50%, dilutes both sides. You don't give everything you want to work, and you don't give everything you want to the kids. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a way to make it work. I've made it work before.
Can you talk a little bit about how it worked before? How you were able to make that work?
Well, I had other people that were helping me, and
With the kids.
even and so again, I could schedule. My work was flexible enough that I could schedule it in a way that I was always around and available during all the at most of the time. But again, when doctor's appointments and things like that were of importance, but and could still get my work in. And because I also feel that I'm not sure I could, as much as I need the work and the organization to keep me fulfilled, to keep me happy, to make the whole picture happy.
Yeah, yeah. So could you do that again, though? I mean, could you have people help you if you really wanted to take on kids again, or increase your time, rather? Yeah,
and I looked into that, and had that kind of all lined up, and was pretty much ready to go, and then, honestly, I don't know what happened to it. It just, other things kept snowballing, and it kind of fell behind, and before I knew it, here I am.
Yeah.
In this, so.
Right. So you can still go back and get it because it's familiar to you of how to get into that routine of having help and that thing. But the deal is it something that you want to do? I mean, is this really the right time for you to be doing that? I think that's the question you're kind of asking yourself.
Right, and no, and it's great. I mean, you've reminded me that I had set myself up, and so again, it kind of emphasizes the fact that I could get there, and if I really wanted to, I could get there tomorrow. But it goes back to the accepting that I'm okay where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
In the short term, and keeping in mind that that's back there. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a skill set. You could call it up like that because you know how to do it and you know what it's about.
Right.
So really then the issue isn't about more time to give back. It really is about, can I just do this now? Can I sit in this great project that's interesting, do a little bit of dabbling or occasional or whatever that might be?
Yeah, and just stop the struggle maybe so much and just accept it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because...
And ride this wave.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love that analogy, but yeah, it's
from
just...
the coast.
It's...
It's a coastal analogy.
Yeah, exactly, the whole water wave.
The water waves, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to look at it from that perspective then.
Yeah, and the other thing that I find myself is that when I am doing my dabbling now in that couple days a month or whatever it ends up being, is that, then that's when the guilt starts to come on, is because, I enjoy it, I miss it, why couldn't I do this more? Then
right.
Then I get back into the work mode. I'm like, oh, I'm loving this, and this is going, this is moving along, and so it's easy to kind of fall into both of those places.
Right, but you also do other things in the foster world besides just take care of kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I teach classes and do, I do speaking events in an effort to recruit additional foster parents and things like that. And I do those specifically now probably more because it's harder to take to take care of the kids themselves, and so this is another way that I can still participate in the organization, which I feel strongly about. So
right, so you are really doing a lot. I mean, from my perspective, so you substituted kid time for teaching and recruiting and helping bring more parents into the system to take care of kids. So you're really still contributing. The difference is you really miss having the little kids, having really the babies and that sort of interaction.
Yeah, and I just it's not only that, but it's I feel like I'm so wrapped up. I like this project, and I'm almost feeling guilty for being so wrapped up in myself that instead of spending more time with kids at risk, or where you're really touching down on the ground and helping. So
right. Right. So what if you did let go of the struggle and just said, I'm still contributing, because you are, right?
Right.
Admittedly. And I have this great time in my career. I'm riding some wave. And how long have you been at this project?
Maybe a year and a half now.
And it's going to continue for?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
not a short-term project.
It's going to continue at least for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a new level in your career, basically.
Right.
So that's continuing. You're riding that. So what would it take to actually just ride it?
Ride it. I know. I know. Yeah, exactly.
Like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going to take some, when I'm kind of beating myself down, or have that gut feeling about I'm not, I should be doing something else. I need to stop and say,
well, there's a technique you could use.
Okay.
You could try. There's a couple things. You have that inner critic. We've talked about that voice in your head that's going, oh no, you're going on another diet. Of course you can't lose weight. You always go on diets. And the Buddhists call it monkey mind, because it's chatter. Somebody's coined the term gremlins. But you can surf it in psychoanalytical literature and read about the inner critic. And it has a function. It had a function when we were little that helped protect us, so we wouldn't touch a stove when it was hot when our parents left the room and nobody was, or an adult left the room. So we know that has a role, but as an adult, it still has a role to keep you, probably moralistic, ethical, conscientious, doing the right thing. But when it gets in your way is when that happens.
Right.
When you're like beating yourself up, and so so one thing is to say to that inner critic, thank you for your advice. Now go sit down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing is separating truth from fiction. So the truth is that you're working very productively. You're valued, and you're valuable, and you love the work. Right. You also are still contributing by helping to bring other parents into the system to help the kids. So you're still in that same loop. Mm-hmm. So that's the truth. The fiction is the should of what you think you're not doing.
You're right. Yes.
So if you wanted to take those hours that you spend teaching in the foster system and take them and put them over with kids, you could pick up the phone and get all your help in, get the troops in to help you do that.
Right.
And you could make that happen tomorrow. And you could still, it would be taking one set of time and substituting for the other, because really what you're saying is you can't take time from your work. Work will let you flex, but you don't want to flex.
Right.
And that's the truth. The truth is you really don't want to flex.
Right. Yes, you're right.
So, okay. Now
accept it. And it's just, it's so good to, remember, because, somehow that got forgotten, that, I did have everything in place and it's back there and I can grab it when I'm ready.
Yeah, when you're ready.
Yeah.
And this is not forever. This is right now.
This is this wave, and there'll be a different wave. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And when you hit the bottom of the trough is a really good time to say, the bottom of the trough can be a low energy time. It could also be a time to regroup and say, well, wait a minute, I want to change my pie.
Yeah.
The pie doesn't look right. Right now, 4 out of 6 2 out of 6, you know, it's okay, it's working. But ride the wave, because you know it's always going to change.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, it's just kind of this inevitable, right? That's cool to remember that. So what will it take for you to remember that? That this is the way you are and the way it is right now? How do you stay sort of in that same frame?
Exactly. Well, I think that, you know, the way you put it, the shoulds versus
Truth and fiction?
yeah, that I think is kind of the summary.
Yeah.
And understanding that I have control over this, and just accepting where I'm at right now, and that it's going to change, and it doesn't mean that, you know, I've totally forgotten my, you know, the other type of work that, you know, the give back part that's important to me, that it's not totally forgotten. It's just a little lower, you know, a little less of the pie right now, and it can be a bigger piece of the pie in the future.
Yeah,
So.
and it's got a different form right now. It's more teaching
Yeah, exactly.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But
when you
it's still
had
the
kids
same.
before, you weren't always teaching as much, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you just switched.
Yeah.
We laughed about, I would summarize when we closed the show. You actually just did the summary. Because we're out of time.
Okay.
So thanks,
Thank
Kel.
you.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
great.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Really fun to talk about this at more in depth.
And bring it all out.
And
yeah.
bring it
and
out.
remember things, and
Yeah.
just say it's okay. It's hard for people to say it's just okay.
Yeah, and that's why coaching is such a great tool, because I don't know, you know, but my job is to make you remember.
Yeah, and to make me know. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Kel.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Kelly and I talking about, you know, balance and give back and all the things that are of value to people, and hope that you do the same thing for yourself. And come back and see us, and take care, and come back and see it's all about you. Bye-bye.